Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the world. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. As you know, I've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but I'm back. This is a long overdue podcast of my good brother of the A5A, my brother Rob Blackwell, and he's doing amazing things. Well, he's not only doing amazing things within the fraternities, but he's also doing amazing things in his normal 9-to-5 day job. So I don't know how he gets all this done, but he does. I guess that's what alpha men do. But just wanted to have him on the show, share his experiences with technology and his career, and just really share his insights. So, Brother Blackwell, please give the listeners a little bit of who you are, a little bit of background.
Sure thing. And you're absolutely right. This is long and overdue, and I'm glad that we finally had our schedules together to get it squared away. So I'm Robert Blackwell. I'm the current CEO of SciTech Services, LLC. It's a business that I founded about 5 years ago. We provide IT services for defense contractors in the Washington, D.C. area. It's a whole journey in how I ended up being a CEO of a company in which I own, but a lot of prayer, a lot of blessings. So, yeah, man, I'm just glad to be here. Glad to, move forward with the interview.
So, Rob, were you always, geeking out on technology? Were you always, technologically literate or technology savvy growing up? Or was this more of a new discovery through college or whatnot?
Man, always some experience with tech. In our generation, we grew up in the best generation ever. The Walkman, the CD player, the Game Boys, the Nintendo. So always some form of something of technology to an extent. And then on top of, we got exposure to computers, starting with Windows 95 for us. But I got into tech as a career, actually based on a DC summer job initiative sponsored by our fraternity brother, Marion Barrett. In doing that, I got an opportunity to work in the Department of Labor, the Francis Perkins building, and I got my first exposure supporting the United States government, doing tech in the IT department. And after that, man, it just took off. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And as I progressed through high school or whatnot, I went to the tech center, the James Forrest Technology Center, and that's when I did, electronics and a little bit of computer networking, and started in the workforce. And then I went to college later on. So it's just one of those things I've always had a passion for, and I just stuck with it.
Now, you said you worked first, then went to college. Is that correct? And, what was some of the, the reasons in doing that? And do you think going to work first and then going to college benefited you, in the long run? We always talk about non-traditional journeys to college, and sometimes it's better for people to go to work first. So can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't know what I wanted to do quite yet. I would say when I was going through high school, getting ready to graduate, I don't feel like the counselors did an excellent job explaining the different degrees and options to us. And I wasn't all the way focused just yet. So my dad set me down and was like, hey, look, you can go ahead and get into the workforce and go to school on your dime. Because I'm the oldest. I got 3 siblings coming behind me. At the time, I had 2. My brother Brandon, my sister Jessica, and then my youngest brother Devin. So my dad was like, hey, you got to figure out what you kind of want to do. So I started working first. And as I started working, that's when I got an opportunity to get into IT. And then it was time to go back to school, really simply because, I was working. I had experience. I had the work ethic, but I was young and I wasn't qualified for a lot of positions because I didn't have a bachelor's degree. So, somebody tells you no a couple of times, you're going to get to a point where you're like, hey, I don't want to feel that way. So I ended up pursuing my college program at University of Maryland University College at the time. It's UMGC now. And as I was working on that, I was also doing certifications because I always felt that I was behind and I needed to do that just, so I leveled myself out at that period of time. But it worked out. And then the master's degree, that's just one of those things that as I was moving forward, I felt confidence from getting educated and seeing that I could accomplish it. And I just pursued it. So it worked out.
Now, I think you spoke about it. I work at George Mason. Specifically, I work with employers and a lot of tech and engineering. So I'm learning the lingo. And I'm learning that certificates are holding a lot of weight in the tech world. So like if you're a student getting a bachelor's, I'm seeing a lot of students while they're getting their bachelor's, getting their like comp, Security Plus, and all these different
CompTIA
ones.
Security Plus.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that you talk about that experience, were you coming out of pocket on your own for the certificates concurrently while you were going to school? Talk about that experience and why those certificates are important, because I'm learning about those are really important to set yourself up for career success.
So I was 50-50. Some certificates I self-studied and I came out of pocket and paid for myself. Some, the companies that I worked for, they offered a training budget and allow us to go to boot camp and class and do it. And they run hand in hand, because a lot of times if you especially this area where we are, if you're supporting some of these government agencies, yeah, you can have the bachelor's degree, but they also want to make sure that, especially DOD, that you're 8570 certified, which you need a Security Plus or Net Plus or CSSP, or depending on the level of pay, that dictates if you even qualify for the job. So for me, I was double dipping. I was doing both. UMGC also offered like a program to where if I had a certificate in at a certain level, so like Security Plus, I didn't have to take the course. They gave me college credit for it. So, it allowed me to excel and have something to look forward to as I was going through my education. But yeah, man, the certificates are the game in addition to with the degree.
Can you explain that number? You said some 80, 70, 80. What's that mean?
Yeah. So basically with DOD, I believe it's IAT 8570. To qualify for a job in tech, you have to have this minimal certification. Some positions allow you a period of time to obtain the certification, but a lot of times to be rated at a certain level, you need this certification or a combination of certifications with your work experience in order for you to be eligible.
Now, I'm not making a big assumption, but I am kind of making one based on what I see anecdotally at George Mason, is that tech is growing for people of the Black diaspora, but I don't see a lot of Black males, maybe majority or whatnot. Was that your experience in the working world, even in the DMV, which is a very diverse area, or is that just my bubble in education? I'm just kind of skewed. What is your experience in that tech world as an employee?
So early in my career as an employee, you see African Americans or Blacks in tech. However, it depends on what type of technology they were doing. You would see them, being fiber technicians or cable technicians or desktop install or help desk, right? But when it was time to do like cloud computing and cybersecurity and some of the, the more sexier things that are, popular right now, it'd be few far in between, the coding, the software development. Because, to be good at those things, you need to start early and often. And if no one's told you, your first exposure to coding is when you come to college, you're kind of behind the curve. So, when I started off, you have them in certain, buckets doing different things. But as I progressed, like when I transitioned fully to cybersecurity, there wasn't many of us where I was currently working at. Now that's changing with some of these larger companies with diversity, equity, inclusion, and some of the stuff that's working out there, hiring a lot of people, and there's a lot of backing behind it. But initially, no.
No, and you said like really like if you get to college, you're already behind the game. Like, so have you seen in this area like more investment in high school coding, or I don't know. I'm like, I need to get my kid in it already. He's 9 years old. Like, talk about that early. Like, how does that work?
So early, they have a lot of different training sites, and then with the games that they play nowadays too. Even with the Apple, I want to say they offer something called Swift, where it's like an entry level coding that they could do on their own time. My daughter's done some coding early on. She didn't stick with it because she started playing tennis, but she also did some coding. My brother Brandon, software developer, subject matter expert. So when you started early, exposure in the schools, where some of the schools are having you do that. And if you want to step out on your own to pick up a language like Python or something, it's a start, because you're going to need these basic skills as you move into it. And when you take the course, and it's not the first time you're seeing it, it can help a lot.
And I know you giving back. I mean, like, speak about your experience in Alpha. Where do you think that our membership in our great fraternity can have a space in that growing diversity of technology? Technology practitioners and technology students. Where do you think Alpha can fit into that?
I think we kind of already getting to a point where we transition into that, through our Project Alpha. where we're doing that through our Alpha Academies and our various chapters in different areas, and through our foundations where we offer scholarships and training opportunities. And then like brother District Director Glover did, enacting C2C, which I'm the chair for our district, right? Now we're creating opportunities where we're sitting them down, we're mentoring them. Some other brothers, like Brother Vernon Green, has offered his foundation that he has to his business, where he gives them cybersecurity vouchers and different things like that. So I think we're getting there from a district level. I think as we move higher, as things change, I think they're getting to that place where they're trying to build new partnerships and do that stuff. But it's going to take all of us, man. I think a lot of times, and not just in the fraternity, but just as a culture, we got to understand that it's room for everybody to eat at the table. And every little bit, every seed you sow builds a garden that turns into a forest, and everybody eats. So I think that if we get to a point where we operate like this, where it's like an ecosystem, everybody contributes, everybody gets something out of it, I think we'll get there. But I think it's on its way.
I mean, I'm hearing two things. One, I'm hearing like this more of a, rather than having a scarcity mindset, we have an abundance mindset, like that we can all eat. And I think that when people work at a necessity, they hold on to information or skills or knowledge for fear that if I give to someone else, that I'm going to miss out, as opposed to someone that has abundance mindset. Is like, if I help them out, they grow, I grow, we all grow. And so, I mean, I think you see that with business and if my business thrives, your business has to fail, but we can have that abundance mindset. And I see you smiling. You agree with that mindset?
No. Hey, look, I wholeheartedly agree with that concept. Because once again, sometimes some believe that it only could be one. No, it could be many. It could be very many. And it's all about how we go about it. I always say it takes a village, right? And it truly does. I'm not robbed today just because, I had a dream and I had a mother and a father. I had aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, friends, fraternity brothers, brothers and sisters, different things like that all poured into me, lifelong friends that all poured into me, right? So I think that, a good example of, the ecosystem, I got my brother Brandon is 10 years younger than me. My brother Devin is 20 years younger than me. My sister Jessica is 13 years younger than me. So I went out first. I was the first to go to college. I went to school online and I learned some things. Those things that I learned with the certifications and the education, I poured into my brother that was 10 years younger than me early. And he got a heck of a head start. He went to college. Whoever thought he was going to major in IT like his brother, right? He's finishing out a master's degree at Johns Hopkins. Fast forward to my sister that I'm 13 years older than, right? She went to George Mason. You saw her there, pledged SG Row and did her thing there, majored in IT. Never would have thought she would have done that. And now she's looking for a grad school. Now, my youngest brother that I'm, 20 years older and who's young enough to be my son, he's a junior in high school, right? And now we got him in coding classes, and he just passed his Security Plus about a month ago.
Already?
So, yeah,
already has the Security Plus.
Already has the Security Plus. So it's one of those things to where, we got to start building the village up, right? So it's enough for everybody to thrive.
And what I'm also hearing too is like, oh my goodness, but like, one of the words or terms that we hear a lot in higher ed is the hidden curriculum. It's like, almost like the veil or the matrix. It's, like for us, it's common knowledge. You're saying all these words in lingo, Security Plus, IT, but what's common is not always common. Can you speak to a little bit, like, I think your family, your little siblings got a head start on that hidden curriculum, but can you talk about your experience, like you breaking through and you're like, wow, like I didn't know this whole world was out there. Like you, like being the first in your family going through that. Can you talk about that hidden curriculum for you?
Man, I think first and foremost, it was a lot of prayers said for me, man. I think that's the first. I'm a firm believer for a African-American man, a father is important. I had my father and my grandfather, I had a host of uncles, and then my parents, my mom, and other cousins and stuff around me. So like going through it was good. So I had a good base. But when I looked at my younger siblings, I knew I never wanted to do anything negative that they would have to answer for. I wanted to be, that bridge. Some people like to walk on the yellow brick road. Some people like to build it. I wanted to build it so that they can, off that road, they could build highways or express lanes or whatever they so chose to build off of it, right? So for me, they were like my motivation. And then becoming a father, Now that becomes your motivation because, you're responsible for somebody, speaking to another father, right? You're responsible for somebody. So breaking through the tech, man, I think I'm still breaking through in different ways, to be honest with you. You never stop learning, but to get to where I am now, man, it was one of those things to where trial and error. I got about 20 industry certifications, right? I don't say that to brag, but I got so many of them because I was so afraid that, hey, they're going to see me for not having this bachelor's degree and I'm not going to meet. Well, out of that 20, I probably only needed maybe 5, right? So trial and error, getting out there, trial and error, and then taking chances, taking an opportunity that some people don't want. Because sometimes they'll complain. Like when I went into IT project management, I had a lot of coworkers that worked amongst me and they complained about the PMs that we had doing our projects, but no one wanted to step up, right? So one of the mantras that my dad always told me, if you're not going to step up to fix it, then be quiet. So I stepped up and I learned, and that paid dividends. That took my career in a whole nother level where I now knew I wanted to major in for my bachelor's degree, which because I was doing the work, going through school was just so much easier. Like I had to reacclimate myself to the general studies because I've been removed for about 6 years, but doing my major courses towards my degree, oh man, easy. And then just getting opportunities. So just open, a lot of doors got open based on me taking a chance, and then the work ethic, showing up every day, doing what you need to do. As I always tell everybody, what is your brand? Building your brand. When someone tells you, hey, I work with Rob Blackwell, they're going to tell you a couple of things. 1, he's going to show up, he's going to work hard. 2, he'll give you the shirt off his back. And 3, when you leave away from him, he's going to try to make you better, and he expects to grow and be better as well. So the breakthrough part, man, it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of prayers. It was a lot of help, but man, it worked out. And then I would say in my field, as I started moving into project management, there were a lot of Black male mentors, like one of our frat brothers, Brother Vern Saunders, who's in our chapter, who's in South Atlanta chapter. He was like our program manager. He was a good mentor. There was another gentleman by the name of Timothy Roberts. And then there was another frat brother by Warren Haskett, and then Chuck Holden. And then I had good friends keeping me grounded, like my buddy Joe. He saw I was young. He saw I was raw. He said that he saw that I had a lot of potential, and he set me down to make sure that I harnessed it in all of the right ways. So a lot of support, man, throughout their journey.
Speak about those mentors. I literally was about to go about the way that I've learned about the hidden curriculum. Like, for instance, I'm getting my PhD in communication, and I'm only saying that to say, like, I've worked in higher ed for my whole career, but I was always in the student affairs side, and now going into academia, I'm learning about grants and writing research and all that stuff. And one way to learn about that was I have a mentor on campus, Sammy Steen, Dr. Steen, and like he's really been a mentor. And it's like just because he has experience, he has patience with me. Can you talk about you dropped a bunch of mentors in tech, how they helped you?
Man, just, like I said, I started my career young. I was 18 when I started my career in tech. I mean, technically, I was a teenager with my summer job, but like in the actual professional world where this is my living, I was 18 years old, just not far removed from high school. So I mentioned Joe. Joe was somebody that understood where I was. He's still one of my best friends today, 20 years older than me, but he set me down to harness that energy. So, I didn't let all this energy put me in bad situations, right? Then as I fast forward in my career, I had a buddy by the name of Kasim who also saw potential in me and set me down and harnessed that energy and to make sure that I was doing things right. So I would say the main thing that I got from my mentors was patience and understanding. They saw what I was capable of, and then they harnessed that stuff early on. And then like now, moving into the frat, he's a brother, a friend, and he's also a mentor, Brother GC Mary. He saw so much potential in me to do different things within the fraternity or just with business that was extremely helpful. And the last one I would say too, my line brother Ali, I never had any aspirations of starting a business. Happened by accident. And when it was time to do it, I went to him and he set me down. He said, these are all the mistakes that I made. He said, you're not going to make them. I'm going to sit down and we're going to map it out. Going back to that concept of it's enough room for everybody to eat at the table. It doesn't have to be one. So I would say patience, understanding, and time and perspective are some of the best things that I got from my mentors. And a lot of my mentors are a lot older than me. A lot of my closest friends are a lot older than me. My buddy Floyd, the same way, biblically and in life and spiritually, always sitting down with me, going over different things just to, make sure I stay balanced and well-rounded.
Are you referring to Floyd Jones, Brother Jones, or no? That's a different Floyd.
No, this is a different Floyd. This guy, this gentleman.
That's my man.
Nah. This gentleman's name is Floyd Hawthorne.
Yeah. Now, what brought you to Alpha, and how did that journey start for you?
Man, so Alpha, the brother I mentioned earlier, Vernon Saunders, he is our program manager for Verizon FNS. We switched over to Jacobs. I used to watch this brother move. He took care of his people. He spoke, where things could be terrible, but after you speak to us, everything gonna be all right. Sometimes I used to call him our version of Obama, right? So then he had his lanyard on one day, and I asked him about it because, I grew up in DC, didn't really have a lot of Greek exposure. Then when I moved to Southern Maryland, you would see the women, but you never seen the men. So it's like, okay, very limited exposure. I thought, they just partied and hung out and did all this other stuff. And I was like, but then I saw him in work, operating like an alpha, and I just looked it up myself. But you know what the kicker was? I didn't have a degree, so I had to wait. I found out about that probably my second year into my degree. And I'm like, you know what? I got to finish this in order to do this. There's no way I can do this without my degree. And once he exposed it to me and I started looking it up and researching it myself and started seeing the history, Martin Luther King, Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, Garrett Morgan, all these different people that had a key role in the things that we've done as African Americans today, man, it just motivated me. Then when you talk about the story after the Niagara movement, how we got founded, like if that don't move your spirit, I don't know what does. So, man, after that, I was sold. So I just had to do it.
Hey, that's the, I know very well, like you hit the ground running in regards to leadership within Alpha. Can you speak to how, like, your background in IT, your work ethic, that prepared you? I think that, like, a lot of people think, you bring Alpha brings a lot to you, but you bring a lot to it, right? Like, you already had pre-existing gifts and experiences that you contribute to this organization. Can you talk about your experience? Like, I did project management, so I knew I could be a chapter leader. Like, talk about that, like that kind of stuff.
So, like, the base of my work ethic, man, come from my grandfather, man. My family down in St. Mary's County, we're watermen. So every summer, so I didn't get in trouble in the city, my grandfather, my grandmother, they always bring the grandboys down there to work on that boat and shake crab pots with our grandfather. So all summer long. So you get to see a couple of different things. You get to see what a hard day's work is like. You get to see what it feels like to work out in the elements, and you get to appreciate what you're doing with your dollars. So my foundation came there. Then I watched my father, who gets up and goes to work every day. And, having those things as a base, that helped with my work ethic. Now, picking up the skills and doing different things with Alpha, man, that's just something you got to want to do in your heart, right? Like, I genuinely love helping people. That's just something that, they tell me I get it from my grandmother, but I genuinely love helping people. So, man, just bringing my skills to, what skills I do have to help, we got a diverse group of brothers, so everybody got skills, but bringing that stuff to the forefront, man, it just seemed like, it felt like second nature. It was an opportunity to step up and do something instead of complaining, like I told you, and just making changes like that, so other people can benefit.
And also to that point, to be honest, like before I joined the frat, I was like, I got a podcast. I could do media. I was, when you have to sell yourself, like,
yeah,
I could do that. And so, was there anything in IT you're like, I could do IT? Like,
man, social for us, we got older brothers, man. So social media, man, that was like the main thing. Because as an interested candidate, I'm trying to figure out, well, what is the chapter doing? What are they doing? They're doing a whole lot of work, right? But nobody want to put that on social media. That's that's the new school way of doing things. So I think the social media thing was one of the main things that I found my niche. And then we ended up, I'm a history buff. I love hearing other people's stories. So we ran like this special program to where our older brothers, like, one just passed, our charter member, Brother Chester Johnson. At least we got his story recorded of him telling us his perspective of Alpha and how he went through different things, because a lot of history there, he crossed in the 50s. I want to say either 1954 or 55. So that's a lot of history there. Jules was still alive. So we ran some things like that. And, and then we pulled off a probate video when I was the dean, because, that's something we weren't really doing, but we did like a little neophyte presentation video. So just using the skill sets. And I had a lot of brothers help me with that stuff too, using those skills to make things happen. That project management. collaborating, bringing people together.
Yeah, I mean, you already know. I mean, we're on that. Like, I'm thinking about more media. We did the recording for Voteless People, and like,
Yep.
and I did the same thing with Recording Brothers. And like, I think about it now. It's like, okay, in the grand scheme, I could bring. I was intimidated because I remember my first information session, like where everyone in the chapter stood up. I was like, everyone already had degrees. Everyone already had masters. They were like,
Yep.
That's not gonna be unique. Like, that's not
Oh.
gonna be a seller. Like, oh, I got a master's. Okay, me too. So I had to think about what individually could I contribute to this like very esteemed group of people. And so I was like, literally, I said that like I could do podcasts or I could do media or like
Man, it's funny.
stuff like that. So I think about that all the
It's
time.
funny you say that, right? So like, you stand up and I'm so and so. I went to school here and there. Everybody got a degree. That's one thing about going through, the process of trying to join. None of that stuff matters. It strips all of that, and your character as an individual and your true talents are being assessed. So I think like that's the piece. If I would give anybody words of wise, we already got doctors, already got lawyers, got IT and business owners and educators, and it's down to what you bring to the table.
So, I think another part that I want to kind of pull out from this interview is, like I said, going back to you are really, I already know DJ will co-sign that you're really a brother for the college brothers, one that wants to see them grow and invest in them and help them. So as we think about that, what are some things that we can do as alumni brothers to help our college brothers, particularly with the IT stuff too,
Man, I think first we gotta empower them to lead. That's first, and two, sometimes you gotta meet people where they are. Just because Rob or Phil is at this particular period in their life, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, we weren't, right? So I think sometimes we got to dial it back a little bit and understand where people are, and then understand that at that level where they are, things have changed, right? The surroundings. We talked about social media just a second ago, the campus life, a lot of things and factors have changed. So I think one, empowering them to lead, giving them confidence, building them up, and then two, understanding where they are, and then being a safe space for them. I mean, they're gonna mess up, they're gonna do great. That's no different than being that big brother, but also treating them as an equal. I think if we do all those things and stay consistent, it can help move things forward. As far as like the IT stuff, we're already kind of doing that with C2C, but hey, it goes both ways. They also have to reach out to get some information too, right? I can't, or any other person can't, if you don't open your mouth, we can't feed you, right? We don't know. We can't, not mind readers. If we were, we'd be rich. But yeah, man, I think it goes both ways. But at the end of the day, if it's from our aspect, we got to empower them, let them lead. And then the best leaders know when it's time to follow. Sometimes you got to step to the side and allow them to lead and be that silent partner instead of the one out in front.
Yeah, I love that. And just for the audience, I don't know, I think we said it earlier, but can you reiterate what C2C stands for and how that's helpful for college brothers?
Yeah, college to corporate life. Basically, C2C is a program that the fraternity runs as a whole, and then we really start putting emphasis on it in the district to help these brothers transition from college into a corporate position, with emphasis on them maintaining the job, getting exposure to investments and different things early on, because a lot of people don't realize that the cost of life insurance is cheap when you're young. They don't realize that you need other investments and how to set up their 401ks and Roth IRAs and all these different things. So we do an interview prep too and resume prep, just getting them squared away and pointing them in the right direction. Because as we mentioned earlier, our fraternity has a very large, diverse group of brothers with different skill sets. Now, I talked to you about giving my brother some information 10 years earlier than I got it, right? If we do those same things, and that's what we're doing in C2C, hey, sky's the limit.
So my thought, another thought that I had come to my mind is, thinking about, like I said, we already talked about diversity in the workplace, but thinking about diverse, like, I had a thought and I totally lost it. I was thinking about like more so like the closed mouth can get fed, right? And we're thinking about mentorship and thinking about that they need to be assertive. Can you share a time where you did that so that we can share those examples of when you're seeking mentorship or seeking help from someone of higher status or guidance? What is the correct way to go about that? Because I think about that. That's another hidden curriculum. Like, you don't want to ask someone straight up, Rob, get me a job. That's not the way to go. It's thirsty. But there's another way to go about it. Hey, I see what you're doing. But I want to hear your thoughts on appropriately asking for help and not handouts.
I think the easy answer to that is you do your due diligence up to a point, with what's within your exposure factor, right? If I know that I want an IT job at minimum, all right, I want to try these jobs because I've read the job description. I know I need these certifications. I'm reading up on the certification. So if you were to come to me, hey, Rob, I'm trying to get into IT. I looked at some help desk jobs. I looked at some cyber jobs. I see I need a security plus. I see it costs this much. I may not have the funds. Do you have any other ideas of what it is that I should be doing? And go like that. Somebody like me would probably pay for your security plus exam. I will get you the resources that you need and probably sponsor your test. Because once again, it takes a village. And Proverbs 27:17 says iron sharpens iron. So if you do your due diligence up to a point and then you come correct, willingly wanting to know as a sponge, man, anybody will help you. Most people will help you. But if you just show up and, as expecting something to be given to you and you haven't done any work and you're not prepared to do any work, odds are folks are going to see through it, right? Because a lot of people come to folks of a certain status with help. It's almost like somebody trying to join a fraternity, but they never looked at our website.
No, I mean, and like for sure. And like also thinking about, like I said, not handouts. Help and handouts are totally different things.
Yep.
I've helped a lot of students, mentored a lot of people because of that innate hunger that they have, and they just need help or guidance, or maybe being a connector. Like I don't have the agency to get you a job, but I can connect you. Hey, I don't know IT like that, but I know Rob can do an informational interview with you, just at least talk to you about the field.
Using your network.
Yeah, using your network. So I think that is a great advice, is that, come do as much of your due diligence and show what you did, or, not ask, but like display what you did, but also don't ask for handouts. I think I'm gonna ask one more question, and we'll go to our portion called Shot for Shot. As you think about the future IT and the future of this, how do you think in general, besides starting early, because we already talked about starting early, how do you think that the industry could be more diverse? What ways could we increase the diversity in the tech field from your vantage point, or particularly just in the DMV area, at least?
I think a lot of people want to break into tech, but they're like mid-career hires or a little bit more than that. But I think they don't value their past experiences enough and how they will correlate moving over to tech. So, we already talked about, like you said, starting early, doing all those good things. But this is to those mid-career hires. Hey, you can switch over to cyber. Even if you were an educator or you were a lawyer or a project manager, you can switch over. There's a role for everybody. So I think to get more diversity for folks that want to break into it, leveraging their past experiences to move over, because that stuff's still relevant. And I think a lot of times individuals aren't aware, like we talked about exposure factors and different things, like they're not aware that their past experiences are still relevant to get things done or to transition their career.
I want to dive into that, because that's something new that I haven't really talked to, because I'm working at the college level, but maybe thinking about more. So like George Mason is a very non-traditional university where we have veterans coming back. We have, people, career switchers. So how can, like I say, give that same example, a teacher transition and use their teaching experience to the tech world?
I mean, so there are tech positions where they need teachers. You need to learn how to use tools. There are vendors, through Amazon and Microsoft and several others that, hey, you got to go on site and train these people in how to use this stuff, right? And teachers are what? They're basically trainers, right? They're teaching you a curriculum. They're educating you on its use and what its purpose is. So, I mean, that's a good example for an educator, right? Like, hey, they need trainers. They need people that can write the documentation out. Writing the documentation out, the tech documentation is nothing different than the syllabus for the year, laying out the lesson plan of what needs to be done, right? So I think that's a good way of looking at it.
I mean, I think about like, okay, now if you're like a lawyer, you want to go in, you're going to think about policy and copyright and all that to the tech world. So you really could think, okay, all right, you're inspiring me to look at something.
You gotta use the whole toolbox. Use the whole toolbox.
Okay, let's do another hypothetical. Where, if I'm ready to like just start now, no certificates, nothing, what would you suggest to me as a good starting point without having to go to college? Like right now, I'm getting my doctorate, but I want to learn tech on the side. What would you suggest as a great learning tool for me, the average American?
Oh man, Google offers a lot of free certifications.
Yeah.
LinkedIn Learning offers some certifications.
Yeah.
YouTube, Professor Messer offers, he gives the whole Security Plus training and Network Plus and A Plus all the way down the line for free. So I would say those are resources to use, but I'll also say do that search within yourself, because this is something you got to love. Man, hey, I love this field, some days as I'm getting older, but now I love this field. But you got to love it in order to sit there and want to study and go through all of that. So if it's somebody that's, trying to start now, go to those free resources. Those free resources, they're there. Those free resources all that information is the same and they'll get you right.
I love it. All right. Well, this is a great episode. Definitely I'm going to share this and get this out. But this is the part of the show called Shot for Shot. You get to ask me any random question. I get to ask you any random question. You want to go first or I go first?
I can go first.
All right.
So what made you pursue your doctorate?
All right. I mean, that's the first time thinking about it. And I had to re-examine my why every day because why am I doing this? I'll say a couple things. One, I said, why not? As in a sense that it is a, educational benefit at working at Mason, like if you work at this institution, you get at least tuition reimbursement. So I was teeter-tottering with maybe I should get another master's or get another bachelor's degree, but I felt like, I'm just wasting a benefit if I'm not continuing my learning. So that's one, right? It's that one. Two, just to flat out say what it is, I work in higher ed and I was looking at all the positions of leadership, and to elevate in this space, everyone had the word doctor in front of their name, whether it was an EDD or PhD. It's similar to what you saw, like seeing like, how do I get up, the level up? What do they have that I don't have? And I saw the word doctor next to their name. And then, I don't know, now the third one, I don't know if this is kind of in a funky one. It's also like, I just want to prove it to myself because I've had like really great examples of phenomenal people in my family, like my grandfather, my dad, my mom. My mom's a medical doctor. My dad's an Army colonel. My grandfather, God rest his soul, was a Black doctor in Charlotte, North Carolina during segregated South. Like I have aunts and uncles that are, that are professors. And I was like, I don't know, I just feel like I want to like be at their level and like do it for like the honor of my family kind of thing. Like, not settle because like they didn't settle. And I got an aunt and uncle that worked retired at UNC Asheville, and they got a building named after them. And not because they donated, a buttload of money. They did it because they were professors for 30 years at UNC Asheville. And I was like, that was like the most cool thing I've ever heard of, right? Like that their legacy was on a building forever because of their work and their mind. Like they earned it with their mind and their degree and not with just a bunch of money and all the students they helped. So I think those are some of my whys. I have to revisit it all the time because sometimes I'm like, why am I doing this? This show is trash with 2 kids. But it's slow and slow. There's there's no race. That's another benefit is that because I work at George Mason, there's no desperation meter. I'm not, oh my God, I got to get this degree to get a job. I'm doing this like at my
own pace. You want to. You're doing it because you want to.
It relieves a little bit of that. My back's not against the wall. So those are a few reasons why I'm getting a doctorate. And thank you for asking that question because it made me think about it right now. Why?
It's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. It's interesting how you just talking about your aunts and them having a building. I'm a firm believer, it's 2 important dates that will be correlated to you: the date you're born, the date you die. But what's most important is what you do with the between those dates, that dash, the legacy you leave, and how you make other people feel. And if they got buildings at a university, they did some incredible work.
Yeah. Also, like it's probably like off of naming. Someone had to bring their name up in the room and said, "Let's do it." And the thing that's really more remarkable for me is that they're able to see that while they're alive. Most people don't get this. Most people don't get to see the buildings named after them till they die.
Absolutely. That's beautiful.
So that's pretty cool. And I don't think they're going to do anything to get canceled. So they're not going to get it scrubbed off. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're really good people. Like,
easy to get canceled nowadays.
No, I don't know. I think they're good. They're good folks. They didn't do nothing crazy. All right. So I know you don't live in a world of like live in a life of regrets. You know, I know that. But if you could go to college right out of high school and have that college experience, where would you go and why?
I would have probably at this stage in my life, I was looking at two schools at the time. I looked at Bowie and I was looking at a tech school down in Atlanta, which I'm so glad I didn't go to because I think they were one of those schools that wasn't accredited and they only offered associate degrees.
Yeah.
But knowing what I know now, man, I would have went ahead and gave Bowie a shot for a couple of reasons. It wasn't too far from home. A lot of folks I went to school with went there. HBCU culture, and it would have been something I was familiar with, right? So I would have tried that. But if I could have gone to any school I wanted to go to, I probably would have went back home to DC to Howard.
Okay. Yeah, I went to Bowie State for 2 years. So I rock with Bowie. Bowie got yeah, but Bowie got Bowie money now. That joint was completely different when I was there in 03. It's like
so it's interesting you say that.
Amazon money.
I would have graduated. I graduated high school in 2006. And yeah, that campus and Morgan State campuses do not look like they look when I was looking at college.
That's
now Maryland got that business grant, and yeah, those universities they look great.
Yeah, Bowie got that Bowie, that new Amazon, I call it McKinsey money, you know, when gave all them things out. So this has been a great episode. This part of the show is called Shout Outs and Plugs. Shout outs means show love to anyone you want to show love, just, you know, anyone. And then plugs. These are things that I'll make sure to put in the show notes, references, resources, your website, whatever. But the stage is set. Shout outs and plugs.
Shout outs and plugs. Shout out to Coach GC, Association GC. Shout out to SciTech Services, LLC. Shout out to World Services, LLC. Shout out to my girl Tasha that's getting ready to start our podcast that's coming up with some nursing stuff. That's going to be cool. Stay tuned. And then shout out to Management and Mimosas. My girl Danielle and her crew, they're doing excellent work.
Well, yeah, can you explain a little bit of that? That sounds like a cool name. Just what it said.
So Management and Mimosas. Management and Mimosas. It's a podcast that they have where it's talking about leadership and different things like that. So all of them are leaders in their own right, and they doing the thing, man. They got a nice setup there, man. So shout out to Danielle and those two.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Rob, for being on the show. Positive Philter listeners, it's been a great episode. Please support my fraternity brother and all the great things he's doing. As you know, every episode is dedicated to the memory of my father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch. So please consider donating to the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund for all his work combating food insecurity. And if you're a member of the Mason Nation, please consider submitting a Pats for Patriots. It's an e-card that gets sent to someone. Show love, foster kindness in the community. It's been a great episode, and we're out.
06.
Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.